Oh, g'day, Finroo here. How you doing? So today's the day. About an hour and a half, 2 hours ago, I kegged the chocolate milk porter that I did. About a week and a half, be about 2 weeks ago. So she took. I'll go and fill it. So hang on a second. Let's just have a look. See where we're at. I haven't got much of a voice today, but that's okay. Geez, I tell you what, that forced carbonating seems to do the trick. Yeah, let me turn this bad boy down a bit. Yeah, so yeah, that's okay. We can do that. So I didn't realise actually that it would take that much, that would carbonate that much up for the little amount of rocking back and forth that I did to it. She's settling down. Yeah, so that's forced carbonating. So what I did was I filled the keg up, and then I pumped some CO2 into it and burped all the air out at the top. And then what I did was I cranked it right up to about 25 psi, something like that, nothing too silly. Just lay it on its side and just rocked it back and forward gently. Didn't go too hard out. Just rocked it back and forward for about a minute, 2 minutes, and then had a rest. Then did the same again and did it for on and off probably 6 or 7 times. And then I've just left it for a bit, and yeah, it's given me a good head on this beer. It's settling down, so it'll settle down quite quickly because obviously it's not really carbonated up too much, but it's a good start. It's a good start. So I've got some notes here. The first thing I want to talk about while this is settling down is when I was talking last time, about getting the headache about fermenting too high. What it produces, the yeast produces, is what's called fusel alcohols, and so that's when it's brewed at too high a temperature, you'll get those, and that's what will give you a headache. So I didn't mention it last time because I forgot the forgot the name of the I forgot fusel alcohols. So so just remember to keep your brewing temperatures down if you can. If you live in a hot, if you can get it yourself a fermenting fridge of someone who's just replaced their fridge with a new fridge, say, "Oh, what are you doing with that?" And they might say, "I don't know." Say, "Give me $50 for it." Sweet deal. Yeah, done. Okay, back to the chocolate milk porter. I've been really looking forward to this. So kegging it. Yep, there was a big lot of sludge at the bottom, and I was warned about that. But it's not a problem. I didn't put any findings like gelatine into the keg after I kegged it to clear it out, because I didn't really see much point. And although I do like a clear beer for like a pale or something like that, and even my dark, I do like to add some gelatine to it. But I have actually noticed a couple of minor things with doing that. And the first one is, I think that adding gelatine to the keg does strip a little bit of flavour out of the beer. Not much, but if you have the first few times that you do the gelatine, you think, well, that's nice and clear, that's good, and you think it's just not quite as much. It's minimal. I'm being pedantic here. The other thing too is the heat retention. I've noticed is a little bit less when you put gelatine in the keg and you pour your beer. There's a little bit less. You're still getting heat retention. You're still getting, but it's just not. It just doesn't stay thick all the way down to the bottom. So just something to think about, and don't take my word for it, just give it a go and see what you think. So okay, what we've got here is the chocolate milk porter, which I really enjoyed making. So that had 250 grams of very low fat cocoa, because as you know we don't want fat in our beer, because it interferes with our head retention, and if you use full fat cocoa you probably wouldn't get any head on it at all, I wouldn't think. The other thing too is that I haven't used in a beer before is the fact the milk lactose. So I use 250 grams of lactose. I still have 250 grams left, so I'm going to be using that again either in this beer, or I may even put it into my Tide Bastard. See how that goes. So without further ado, let's have a little bit of a go. Okay, so the first thing that I can smell with this is actually that Willamette hops and cocoa. Actually, probably on an even keel. The Willamette came to me first. Or the cocoa is coming through lovely and strong, actually. Now, see, this is. I'm going to do a shout out in a few minutes, so just bear with me. The idea that I've learnt recently is not to overdo your sensory, not to just and give it too much, and just a little bit of. Oh, and the cocoa is really coming through now. Isn't it interesting how first of all, it was that Willamette hop, and it was the first time I've ever used Willamette hop was in this. And now that I'm sort of just taking it easy and not sniffing away like a robber's dog, now I'm really smelling the cocoa. That's really interesting. Okay, cocoa, chocolate? Yeah, chocolate, obviously. But I think that I can smell the cocoa powder more than I can smell the roasted malts. So let's go, I'll go in for just a quick sip. Okay, so that's beautiful, really beautiful. So, of course, it's very, very young in the keg, and I would expect after a week different things will happen. Like the last stout that I had in the keg that I told you about last week, that changed totally over about a week and a half. So, what I'm getting is the cocoa up front. But the cocoa, and now I'm getting the roasted malts. Now I'm really getting the roasted malts on the palate, and I'm getting a pine finish on the back, and around the tongue. So starting off with a chocolate, with a cocoa chocolate, and finishing around the sides of the tongue and at the back and the top, finishing with kind of a pine, and there's quite a nice lingering bitterness there. It's very, very nice. Oh yeah, oh yes, that's beautiful. What amazes me about this this recipe, this beer, is the lingering of the flavours in the mouth. There's a beautiful bitterness just warming around my mouth. Of course, it's got quite a bit of crystal in it. Crystal 40 and crystal 80. They're quite decent doses, so it's not going to be too dry, or dry at all. Wow. Now the lactose, I just think, as I just tasted that, I thought, Jesus, that's smooth. And so, I just thought, geez, that's smooth. And then all of a sudden the lactose popped into me, and I'm still getting that beautiful hop flavour. It is really. Oh, and I just smelled the lactose. Isn't that funny how that happened? Reminds me of a song from Steve Stevens on Atomic Playboys. The Power of Suggestion. Good song. So I can now, I've never had a beer, and of course those the hop. If you're interested in trying this beer, go back a couple of videos and have a look. I mention and talk about the recipe, and it was quite a substantial grain bill, but it was also quite a substantial hop bill for me. There's quite a few hops in it, but the bitterness was only, I think I was sort of advised between 35 and 40 IBU, and I think I hit 38. I thought it was bang on, so it's quite, for 38 IBUs, it's not bitter to be, it's very interesting. 38 IBUs is not a lot by today's standards. The bitterness that I can taste only comes after the swallow. First up, it's the malt sweetness and the cocoa. And if you've ever had cocoa without sugar in it, you'll know the kind of, there may be I don't know, there's a wee bit of bitterness coming off the cocoa, possibly, I don't know. On that cocoa, and I can just, it's just a beautiful beer, man. Well, so yeah, thanks again, Skid Baxter, for the recipe. Send it to me. I'll be leaving a link to his channel. He just started off doing some brew videos, so get on. He's got a great brew video there. Excuse me. And you can see, I mean, as I say, I only kegged it about an hour and a half ago, and the head's still there. I did some forced carbonating, and there's lacing. Yeah, and I enjoyed putting the cocoa in at 10 minutes before the end. The cocoa and the lactose, really good, really great, great fun, you know. So that's looking mighty. So that's a good beer. I recommend, if you guys want to have a go at it, have a go at it, and check out the recipe a couple of videos back, and see how you go. I'll be interested to hear how you get on. So cheers, thanks very much everybody. Just a couple of things here. Hang on, I'll just have another sip. I've never made a beer like that. That is superb. Cheers. So just to digress a wee bit here, I want to do a shout out to Beers with Mandy. It's a new channel, got a few videos there, but it's still in its infancy, and talk about a plethora of information about, not so much about brewing beer, but about tasting beer, and about discovering beer, and about the ins and outs of flavour profiles and hop profiles, and what to look for, and how to sample your beer and get the most out of it for information. I'm only just started dabbling in it, and I used a bit of it there with this beer. But you know, you need a different glass and swirling it around, and just not. Yeah, I won't try to pretend that I have got it all together with that, but I am learning from her, and the reason I'm giving her a shout out is because I think it's important as another avenue in home brewing that we actually learn about the things that judges with the BJCP, which I think she's doing something like that, exams. She's doing exams with brew competitions, and just brewing, and just she's right into it, and it's fantastic to see. And I've learnt a lot from a video, so I'm going to be posting a link underneath. She just did a video, she done two today, and I watched both of them, and the second one that I just watched was about, there's a big Trappist beer announcement, that the Trappist, if I got it right, the Trappist beer that was in America, see, I may be wrong here because I was getting ready for this and I was watching at the same time, but is not a part of the Trappist anymore. There's 5. It's to do with the monasteries and things like that, so check that out. I mean, it's all good information and good stuff to listen to and learn about the other things in beer that aren't just about how to brew, because there's so many more avenues. I mean, we do drink the stuff, and a lot of us, like myself, don't know what we're doing when it comes to tasting and finding things out. And I think it's a great thing to learn, and that can also filter down to, in the end, how we go in competitions and how we oversee our brewing and know what to sort of look for. So I'll be putting a link to Beers with Mandy, fantastic channel. Good luck, Mandy. Also, now just one other thing before I go. I won't keep you. Don't go. When I went to do the hydrometer test on this beer, excuse me, can't stop myself. And oh, there's creaminess. That'll be that lactose. He says not really knowing. I don't know if you can see this, but I've got water in my hydrometer. You see that? So I went to do the hydrometer test, and I dropped it into the beaker, so to speak, and it went straight to the bottom. It didn't come up. I thought, Jesus, that's something I haven't seen before. I pulled it out and had a look. I thought something wrong here, and I had a look. And I could see there was just water inside. So I don't actually know. It wasn't. There was water inside it before I put it in. Otherwise, this would be filled with beer. So I've looked for a crack in it or a hole, and I can't find one. So I went and bought a new one. And those that know my channel would be pleased to know that my hydrometer's got its own. My new hydrometer's got its own plastic cover, so I won't be breaking that in a hurry. And this is made of plastic. Yeah. So just the size of that beaker. Half a keg in that. And anyway, so that works fine, and that's my new toy. And that's about it from me. So brew on, guys. I've got nothing else to really talk about, but I've been wanting to get this out. So looking forward to this. And I tell you what, I'm going to go inside now, pour myself a pint, another pint, go inside, listen to a bit of music, and call it a day. So cheers. You take care. Yeah.